Today was about bringing home our legislation. It's something that we initiated years back in terms of wanting to create our own act as far as child and family services, dealing with our families, dealing with our children. And today was the launch of it in terms of having input from our community and our community members. Obviously, we have to do consultation, and this was the kickoff as far as undertaking that consultation with the community. And I think over the next couple of months, we will be consulting with members of our community to have input into that legislation. And at the end of the day, we're looking to have it ratified as part of Peguis's federal legislation in terms of child and family services. When you look at our history as First Nations people, going back to the residential school process, the day school process, the 60 scoop, all those pieces of legislation as far as dealing with the federal government were meant to take our children away. And today we were the first First Nation community in Manitoba to undertake our own federal legislation to bring our children home and to have them remain home within our families and within our community. So it's very significant. Once that legislation is enacted, we'll have the autonomy to determine those outcomes for our families and our children.
It's the most significant piece of federal legislation and the first federal legislation for our First Nation. It is going to welcome our children back home. We're acknowledging them no matter where they reside in Canada. So this legislation is far-reaching and it applies to all Indigenous members on and off reserve and within Canada. We come from 500 years of trying to fight for our values, our traditions, our customs, and our people aren't going to have to fight anymore once this legislation comes into effect. Our children aren't going to have to fight to know who they are as Anishinaabe. They're going to have that in their own community, whether they're in the urban center or in Canada. And that's what this is all about. It's about bringing home our children. They may not reside in the community, but it's about connecting. And it's not just physical, it's emotional, it's psychological, it's spiritual, most importantly.
So under the auspices of Bill C-92 that came out on January 1st, 2020, that legislation affirms that the First Nation has the right to create their own child welfare legislation, and that's what we've been doing over the past year. So over the past year, as we developed this legislation and we've gotten to a point where we're saying to Canada and Manitoba, we're ready to enter into negotiations for a coordination agreement. We sent that notice of intent out on January 20th to Canada and Manitoba, and that basically invites them to participate in negotiations over a 12-month period to establish this coordination agreement. And then the coordination agreement itself basically sets out the fiscal requirements for Peguis to implement this act. The draft act is in place where we feel it's in a pretty healthy situation, but we're currently undergoing engagement sessions with our community members, both on and off reserve, and we're expecting some healthy feedback from our membership that may invite us to make some revisions or amendments to the draft act. But we're pretty pleased with where it's at right now, and I think after this 12-month negotiation with Canada and Manitoba, we should be in a position to have this law come into force.
It means everything to us. It means that we're going to strengthen our nation. It means that we're going to lift up our families. It means that we're going to circle our children and give them what it is they need. It means that we're going to be healthy, and that we're going to work towards reconciliation within ourselves, reconciliation with our neighbor, reconciliation with Manitoba, reconciliation with Canada. There's a really big picture here, and this is really a historic day. It gives me great solace that my children, my grandchildren, my great grandchildren will not experience a broken system. They will experience a circle where they will have the elders, they will have the grandmothers, they will have their history. They'll have an opportunity to form and develop their identity, but most importantly, feel a strong sense of belonging. And that's what we are striving for.